Welcome to the latest episode of the M6P's Back to Books. Tonight, we're going to be discussing the Infinity Gauntlet. I'm your host, Jared, along with Darrin and Kevin and John. We're going to be talking all things Thanos and the record-breaking, awesome, defining series of its time, the Infinity Gauntlet. So, Darrin, why don't you lead us off, man?
Power, such an ephemeral commodities, hard to gain, easy to lose. I once thought I understood it. Such vanity. All right, so we're going to be talking about the Infinity Gauntlet show. Ultimately, sure, a lot of characters and everything, but it was a Thanos show. Same way Secret Wars was a Doom show. The burden of godhood. Wow, that guy's tormented. That whole thing, as a reader, I felt like a therapist the whole time reading this series for Thanos, pretty much. Really good stuff, though. I like Jim Starlin. I mean, wow. So this story, I think this story had the same issues with Secret Wars. Like Secret Wars was too much, even though we all love it. It was still too much story and too many issues. I think like around the third or fourth episode, Starlin must have been like, "Oh, we better wrap this up. It's getting a little lengthy and stuff," which was a good thing. Also, the artwork, George Lopez, he did the first 3.5 issues, and then Ron Lim took over for the remaining issues, and I thought it was pretty cool. Like, it's very hard to go back in that fourth issue and tell where exactly the artist changed. So I thought that was very cool. And that's what I got.
It's cool about the 10th page.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Hydro Man. All right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
We'll get into more of that later.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure we will. But anyway, that's my first initial thoughts of the book. Overall, like, it's definitely not one of my favorite series. It's good. It's what it needed to be, but it's definitely not my favorite. So that's what I got. Anyone?
Great. Yeah, so Infinity Gauntlet was kind of one of those groundbreaking series for Marvel. You know, when you think about maybe the top 5 stories that Marvel has ever done, we already hit Secret Wars. I got Infinity Gauntlet, and there's a couple others. When you really think about like the creme de la creme of Marvel books. But for me, I had never read Infinity Gauntlet until Infinity War, the movie, came out. It was like I just knew the bits and pieces of Infinity Gauntlet. I knew the gist, if you will, but never really sat down and read the 6 issues. So I took it. I grabbed the trade and took it to the beach with me that year that Infinity War came out on the MCU, and it was really hard to put down. I really, really enjoyed it, and it was cool to see the things that Thanos had done in the movie that I just watched to different characters in the comic book. And now the art style was always like very 90s. You know, this is kind of when I think about, Jim Lee, Ron Lim, like those are the guys. When I think about Silver Surfer, I think about Ron Lim drawing him. The Kirby Crackle, but Ron Lim's version. It's just definitive for me. You're never going to make a better Silver Surfer for me. So the Infinity Gauntlet for me is great. It's got a lot of the main meat and potatoes Marvel characters at the time. They were all in it. They somehow survived the snap, the most popular Marvel characters, which was great. And you get to see them decimated by Thanos, who while today in 2023 is regarded as like to the average person Marvel's #1 villain. Back then, he was not Marvel's #1 villain. He didn't have a bunch of toys, and he wasn't on T-shirts, and people weren't even sure how to pronounce THANOS. Like, how do we say that? So at the time, for him to be maybe a B-level villain at the time, I would hesitate to say, and just kind of run through the Marvel universe was really, really impressive to me. And then somebody else talks.
Okay. So first off, as of today, it was today has been 5 years since the release of Infinity War.
That's true.
So it came out 5 years ago today.
Wow.
Also, a week from today, a week and 2 days from today is going to be the 1-year anniversary of George Perez's death. Sadly, but I feel like we're kind of celebrating him here, hopefully.
Oh, yeah.
So this is an interesting series for me. So back in Christmas of '91, I was given cash for Christmas. I think my dad forgot to buy me and my brother gifts, so we got cash for Christmas. And so he took us to the mall and let us spend money on whatever we wanted to. I remember going into, I don't know if it was a Walden's or whatever the bookstore was in the mall, and went up to the spinner rack and I bought What If 25, which is the Atlantis Attacks issue. And if anybody knows about me, I'm a big fan of Atlantis Attacks. I bought X-Men #3, which was the end of that first arc with Jim Lee and them. I bought Punisher 55, which is this cover right here. How can an 11-year-old boy not buy that cover? That's such a great cover. And then I bought Infinity Gauntlet #4, the one with Thanos in space, come get some in that pose. So these are the first 4 comics I ever bought with my own money.
Wow.
So off the spinner rack. So these are all very all these stories are really impactful to me. They're all kind of cynical and dark. So I think that says a lot on the comics I like. So to me, especially for issue 4, I read issue 4 frontwards and backwards for years before I was able to actually complete out the series and get the rest of the issues. So issue 4 is very impactful for me. It's really dark. All the heroes have pretty gruesome deaths. But the rest of the series is, for as far as I'm concerned, I think it's probably the best thing Marvel has ever published. I'll go so far as to say that, and especially the first 3 issues. I think George Perez's artwork is the top of his game. It's fantastic. I'm also like Jared, where Ron Lim is the only guy I ever want to see draw the Silver Surfer. Um, but I feel like like he kind of stuttered when he took over, and I don't feel like, even reading back as it now, I don't feel like issue 4 um, is as impactful as if George Perez had drawn the whole thing. But I feel like he finally picks up the ball and really starts to run with it in issue 5 and 6. And this is a fantastic series. I love it. It was a really great pleasure to reread it. I hadn't read it in a few years, and I think I've kind of forgotten how great it really is, at least as far as I'm concerned.
Right, I agree with Kevin, and all you guys have some great points there. But I think I kind of had a similar experience to Kevin. So I started reading Marvel comics probably 1990, the summer of 1990. So this came out in 91. For me, by that time, I was just reading maybe Captain America, Daredevil, some X-Men. Obviously, the X-Men was, if Jim Lee was drawing it by that time, then I was definitely reading those. But the interconnectedness of the Marvel universe really shone through when I picked up this series. When I saw that cover with Nick Fury, with Thanos' gauntlet, you had Spider-Man on there, you had Hawkeye and Cersei in one corner, Captain America, Nick Fury, Silver Surfer, just all of these folks coming together for the first time in my comic reading life. I know it happened in Secret Wars, but that was before my time. So this was fantastic, just the way that everybody came together. George Perez, my favorite artist, did a fantastic job. I agree with both Jared and Kevin. Ron Lim, for years, Ron Lim was the only guy that could draw either Captain America or Silver Surfer for me, because they just looked weird when anybody else did it, especially his beautiful bald head is a little bit more oblong when Rob Lim. It's just not quite as circular when other guys draw the Silver Surfer, and that it just creeps me out a little bit, or it did for a while. I think I've gotten used to it by now, since he hasn't drawn them in 30 years. But yeah, this was a great series. We did the M6P did the best Marvel stories of all time several years ago, and this came out to be our #1. And that was before Infinity War came out or anything like that. And you guys are right. Thanos might have been a strong villain against Captain Marvel and Adam Warlock, but those guys were long gone by the time this came out. So he brought them back. Well, he didn't bring Captain Marvel back, but he definitely brought Adam Warlock back. He's another guy we haven't talked much about yet, but I didn't know who he was at all before this. And this was really a lot of people's introduction to him. We're going to see him in the movies finally, but obviously it's going to be much different role than as all the Infinity Gems. We're calling them gems. They're not stones.
Yes, sir.
In the comic. So I really enjoyed this a lot. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. I don't I wouldn't say it's perfect, but nothing is. And but it's as fun as most fun you can have reading Marvel comic books. So I really enjoyed it.
All good stuff. And I just want to throw in one more thing about George Perez as before we move on to the next discussion topic. The fact that he could fit so much in one panel, so much, like every single, I mean, his scenes were like, how is he doing this in these little boxes? But he did it, and he did it very well.
And he did. And if I can comment on that, Darren, because that's one of the things I love most about George Perez, and one of the things he loves most doing. I was trying to find out today, because we think about it, why didn't he finish the series? So I was trying to read if he had ever said anything in an article, and all he said was he was just super busy. He took the job because he wanted to draw as many Marvel characters as he could in one series. And he was also doing something for the distinguished competition at the time that nobody remembers. It was called War of the Gods, but he shouldn't have jumped this for that. But with the issue he left was the issue where all the heroes died. And he's like, well, why am I going to keep drawing if there's no more heroes to draw? So I'll go back. I'll go finish DC instead. So yeah, that's what he loves to do, and he's the best at it, no doubt. So
I had read that he was contractually obligated to finish War of Gods, so that's why he had to leave the book. And since Ron Lim was doing Silver Surfer, and he had done the Thanos Quest series with Starlin that led up to this, that's why they gave it to Lim, because I don't think there was a better guy.
Sure.
I mean, maybe there's better artists, more popular artists, but for cosmic stuff, I don't think there was a better guy at Marvel at the time than Ron Lim to take the reins. So,
yes,
I agree.
And George Perez inked his. They said he stayed around at least to ink his covers so that he would show there's no animosity. So he was still in there.
Alrighty, good stuff.
We came back and did Avengers with Busick later on. So
that's my favorite too. Yeah, for sure.
Alrighty, on to the characters. Wow, lots of characters. We're just talking about them. Another big series with a lot of characters. I always like to, ask you guys, what are your thoughts on some of the choices for the characters? Obviously, I'm going to mention Doom because we always do in one of these, and I like how Doom's just like, yeah, I don't care. Like they're like, oh, so as soon as you get a chance, towards the end, like you get your shot, you're going to go just steal it, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to do that. The Infinity Gauntlet. Like, he doesn't care. I love that. His whole attitude, and like it was a little bit different. I mean, it was still Doom, but it was a little bit different than some of the others. Doom's always been pompous, but he was really pompous in this one but he sold it well, which was cool. Then just some of the random side characters. It's so hard because we're talking about some of the MCU comparisons and when we watched what versus when we read this and stuff, and just to see Nebula in this compared to what she is in the MCU. I get why they did it in the MCU; it's necessary, but her character in this, just kind of, I don't know what that one was. She was integral to the storyline at the end, but throughout the rest of it, it's just like a little side piece there, plot piece. But that's what I got as far as the characters. I like Doom a lot, pompous Doom.
I think for me, I compare Nebula to Mystique in the Fox movies. How Mystique is a villain. She's not the main X-Men character. But in the MCU, Nebula is like the main Guardians of the Galaxy character. But in the comics, she's just so C tier, so D tier. She's Thanos' granddaughter, not his daughter. And there's a lot of different things.
She claims to be his granddaughter. That's up for debate. They even say that in this series. Yeah.
There you go. Claims. My bad. So character-wise, yeah, there's just so many missing. There's so many missing. Like when he snapped, Wolverine was the only X-Man that was able to be a part of it. And Cyclops was the only one.
No, Cyclops.
He was on X Factor.
That's right.
His blue and white stripe.
Yeah, that's right. So, he wasn't an X-Men.
So I think Storm needed to be a part of this. I just think she would have been the one to really get Thanos together. She would have collected him up. But no, I think the characters were fun. Like it was for the most part, it was the main creme de la creme popular characters. Outside of like Punisher and Ghost Rider, the main gist of the Marvel universe were all there. They survived the snap, thankfully. It wouldn't have been as cool of a story if it was, Kid Nova and Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan and Miles Morales, and it just wouldn't have been as fun. It would if it were to be done today. It really is like Spider-Man and Doctor Strange and Thor. That's we want to see battle their life, battle for their life. Um, it was really cool with character wise to see some of the gods, just to see them all stand behind Thanos and be like, yeah, we are not even as powerful as you are with the Infinity Gauntlet. Galactus is back there and Stranger and all of them, and they're just like, yeah, we can't do much. That was kind of cool to just see how all encompassing his power was with Thanos having the gauntlet.
Yeah, I love the characters in this. I love the side panels. I think it was in issue 3 where it showed what was happening on the streets. Like if Scarlet Witch, was kind of pointless in the fight with Thanos, what are Moon Knight and Black Widow going to do? And I like how they, like, yeah, they're still around in there and they're doing what they can do, but it's kind of pointless. Like they're heroes, so they're going to keep fighting and they're going to keep trying to save people, but it's pointless. Um, I love there's the cameo of Annihilus at the end of it. Like that's great. Him showing up when the dimensions start to break down. Um, I this was this to me was my favorite version of the Hulk, kind of the arrogant jerk Hulk. He wasn't really angry. He wasn't the brute. He was like the Professor Hulk version. Always kind of loved this one. So that was always fun to see him and hear. I think he probably had some of the best dialogues. I love that scene with him and Wolverine, where they're on top of the Avengers mansion talking back and forth and kind of having a nice little heart to heart when they both know that they're about to go die. That was great. There's a lot of like for so many characters, there's a lot of nice little small moments. And when I thought Jim Starlin did well, and I don't, you don't see this a lot from writers, I feel like anymore. And um, but every character really, like, you could just read the dialogue balloon and it felt like a different character. Everybody used different vocabulary. Everybody had different sentence structure. Like he really like dug into like how would this characters speak in terms of just their sentence structure, and that elevated so much about each of the characters. From Thanos, Mephisto kind of had this like nice little arrogance about him the entire time, and you felt that and you read that, and it wasn't just in the art. It was actually in Starlin's writing, and there's all sorts of stuff like that. I think it's so wonderfully written, and all the characters, even though they don't have, there's so many going on. I feel like each one is still has a character, and you don't get that a lot in a lot of modern takes. Everybody kind of speaks in the same way, and especially in modern like comics that are coming out today, everybody has that kind of online speak, emotional, like the Whedonisms. Everybody has to have that have to have their one-liners, and I like how that just wasn't. Spider-Man was quippy a little bit, but not over the top. He understood the seriousness, and like nobody else really had any quips. It just wasn't in anybody. I like that.
Yeah, well said, Kevin. I agree. I liked like post snap where you just had kind of a page of everybody dealing with the carnage or watching people disappear right in front of him. Spider-Man scene looking for Mary Jane after he sees a whole half of a crowd disappear below him. That was a great moment for him, his humanity, and then later on he was quippy. So he did a great job with that. Captain America is one of my favorite scenes in all of Marvel history when he's just alone. Everybody's been beaten. He's seen his most powerful friends get beaten down, turned into blocks, turned into rubber. He doesn't care. He just stands right up to Thanos and says, as long as one person stands between you, you haven't won. And then, Silver Surfer misses the gauntlet, but it was all part of the plan, and he was going to stand up and do it. And that's why Captain America is one of the best guys there is. Nebula, she was a pretty kind of a recurring villain in the Avengers comics before this with when Roger Stern wrote it. She had a couple arcs with her, and she mentioned Thanos. I think she was just kind of trying to impress him, and then he didn't believe that she's the granddaughter. So I don't know what that's all about. I will say this: I did notice this upon rereading it, and then reviewing it again, looking for anything I liked that we're going to talk about today. Post snap, Wonder Man's in the Quinjet. Wonder Man and I believe it's the robot Human Torch, are with the West Coast Avengers and the Scarlet Witch, and they're like the only three West Coasters that survived. And then he doesn't. Neither of those two guys. I mean, you could. I'm a Wonder Man fan, but even the Human Torch, that Human Torch, why wouldn't they go and help fight Thanos? Like they're pretty. Wonder Man's a pretty strong guy compared to Spider-Man or some of the other guys that they had there. But that's just a quip. And then the other character I really didn't care for, served no purpose, and I don't understand why they did it, was Taraxia, the girl Thanos. What are we doing, guys? We had everything. Like I said, it wasn't perfect. It was great, but that was just like, oh, it's Thanos with boobs. Okay. And she doesn't say anything or do anything, and she just dies out in space because he forgot to make her be able to breathe.
Well, she does
Iron Man's head, decapitated head,
and she crushed Spider-Man's head with a rock.
Yeah.
If you missed that,
yeah.
I don't care for her as a character. She's
look at my mouth. Sorry, we're gonna have to cut this part out.
Taraxia is a whatever character, but I like her inclusion for what it did for Thanos, because really this is all about Thanos basically. I don't know. I don't want to use modern terminology. I'm trying not to use modern internet slang. It's all about him pining for a woman and she just completely ignoring him, doing everything possible for a woman. And when he feels like he actually gives her everything she wants and she still turns her back on him, he's like, okay, well, he's like, I'll just bring somebody else in. It's just his side piece for to make her jealous. So yeah, as a character, yeah, she's kind of a stupid character, but I feel like she was relevant to Thanos' story, and he was trying to make a love triangle. It didn't work, but it's fine.
Yeah, I guess it's just to that point, he made a female version of himself. Like, that's not cute. That's kind of like the whole Loki Sylvie thing. Like, ooh,
right.
You know, like
no,
make
I
Cindy
think
Crawford.
she existed before this series.
Taraxia
Like I thought, yeah, I thought she was another deviant of the what was their race that lived on Titan, that Thanos and Eros is a part of. I can't remember what
The
their race.
Eternals. They were
not it
they were
was Thanos an Eternal.
Eternals.
Okay,
they were like cousins.
So I mean, Thanos is a deviant of his race in the comics, and I feel like Taraxia was another one that he had a relationship early on with. Like the two of them kind of fell after he murdered his mom. Like the two of them had a little fling. I thought that was. I didn't think that she was created just for this story. I thought that she had existed prior to this, and a small character. I mean, because Thanos wasn't even big at the time.
I'm looking it up.
I know he said he can create life, and then he brought her out there. But whether she existed before that or has been seen since, I don't know. But she's just still floating in space, not breathing.
Yeah, it says her first appearance was Infinity Gauntlet.
Okay, so maybe he did create her. I thought she already existed. Okay.
Right. Wow.
No, I just would be like, snap, Cindy Crawford. That's what I made to try and, tease death. I just wouldn't be like Jared with longer hair. Like that would be weird. John Coughlin with hair. Like, that's weird.
Yeah. That would be a good looking creation, though.
You're right. Can't argue that.
All righty. Okay, wow. We went over a lot of things. Just I guess Adam Warlock kind of liked how he's had this master plan the whole time and everybody's doubting him and he's just like, no, wait, and the whole like, and then yeah, they waited, and then he winds up with a gauntlet. It's kind of weird, but he's supposed to handle it correctly, or at that time after he was supposed to. Everybody trusted him, even Thanos, the farmer. So yeah, I don't know. I like that ending a lot. I think. What do you guys think?
Nope, not a
Nope.
fan of Adam Warlock. Nope. I just have never liked Adam Warlock. He's just boring and talks weird. He seems like a very flat character to me. He just always has. So I'm gonna have to sit this one out because I just don't care for him.
I don't really care for him either. I just like the ending, but fair enough.
Yeah. No, the ending was
I do like him, and I mean, especially what was the series after this with the Magus, the dark version of him, or the
Infinity War.
yeah, and or was it Infinity Crusade? No, Infinity
That was the
Crusade
third
was
one.
was the yeah. So
With the good version.
Infinity War was the one that had the Magus in it, and so I always kind of liked Adam Warlock, and again, like he's kind of the main character of this story, and this is one of the first comics I ever bought with my money. So yeah, I've always kind of liked him. Always thought he was I like it's kind of like Silver Surfer, this strange stoic hero that's kind of above everybody else. But unlike Silver Surfer, there's some kind of just dark edge, and even all the other characters are commenting on there's just something a little untrustworthy about the guy. And then when you find out about his future, I really like all that. I think that's I think it's hard to write him. He's been written very poorly quite a lot, but especially in Infinity War, I think he was really well written, and I really liked him in that. Some of the Infinity Watch stuff, the series that spawned out of this, I remember reading those. I liked him in that. That was some good stuff. Him, Gamora, Pip, Drax, and somebody
Yeah,
else. I can't remember who the fifth character was. But
Moondragon.
Was it?
was she part of Infinity Watch?
I thought she ran around with them.
She did. I can't remember.
Let me look.
Well, I'm trying to remember because he broke up the gauntlet, and each person had a stone that they held, and like he had the soul stone. I can't remember, like Gamora had one, Pip had one, Drax, I'm pretty sure Drax had the power.
Yeah, he ate it like he thought it was candy, and he ate
Right.
it, and it was inside of him, still being the Power Stone. Right.
Yeah.
All right, we got Moondragon.
Okay.
No.
Right.
And then what was the thing, Kevin? Do you remember? Wasn't it like Thanos secretly had the sixth stone? Because that was always a mystery in that series. I don't know if
I don't know that I ever finished reading it. I think that came out in maybe it may have come out in War.
yeah, I think I got it in a Marvelous box, and I read through maybe half of the issues, but I never finished the story. But I do think that you guys are both right, Jared. Adam Warlock is flat, and I think he's supposed to be. I think he can be an interesting character, but he's not a likable character in my opinion, just because he doesn't have a personality and he has zero compassion, which makes him almost untrustworthy. Like even when he's talking in the Soul Gem, when he's trapped in there with the Silver Surfer, and the Silver Surfer's, how can we do? Well, we just have to save the universe, and I'm gonna go, and hopefully all these people aren't dead. Like nothing affects him. He has no emotion. Is kind of what his character is, and that's what the next two Infinity series are about. Here's the dark side of him and Magus or Magus, and then here's the in the Infinity Crusade, the female version of him is just what if I'm 100% good? What if I'm 100% bad? What if I'm not good or bad at all, but just completely neutral? And that's what Adam Warlock is. I think he was originally just called him, right? And he was just a gold guy in his red underwear, like Rocky from But yeah, I can take or leave Adam Warlock if it's an interesting story with him, and he can be an interesting part of it. But I just don't find him incredibly likable, I guess is my opinion on that character.
You know, I think
It's
kind
the
of
data and lore dynamic from Star Trek: The Next Generation, which was big
Right.
at the time. I think that's why I like it. Yeah.
You know, I think it's kind of interesting too, the fact that like he's in Guardians of Galaxy 3. So that tells you how important he really will, I guess maybe a little bit like or how interesting he is to most Marvel fans. Like, it's Adam Warlock, put him in whatever, when he probably should have been in one of the Avengers. You know, I mean, I don't know. But maybe the MCU will do better with as far as you guys said, the flatness. I see that there too. Now that you're mentioning it, he's a little flat, but yeah, maybe they can bring that make a more interesting character. Maybe James Gunn can pull it off and have him say some risky stuff and stuff like that. Next thing you know, he'll be in all the comics like that.
Right.
Well,
yeah,
we
yeah.
get our first
Sorry,
F-bomb.
a little bit of
Yeah.
tangent.
Yeah, we get our first F-bomb in this new Guardians of the Galaxy, apparently, in the MCU.
Oh, they're making such
That's
a
what I
big
read.
deal about that too.
Like,
Really?
who
Haven't heard.
cares? Like,
Yeah.
Wow.
That's gonna put butts in seats. I've just been waiting, and now I'm gonna go see a Marvel movie because there's a curse word.
Yeah.
Not just
Oh.
any curse word, Jared, the big one.
The
Yeah.
big curse word.
Oh, fudge. He's just going to fill. He's going to fill all the blood.
It cracks me up. That's a trending topic on social media. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, and they're breaking. Well, today they were talking about Rocket's going to be the most saddest character we've ever known and things like that. And I was like, yesterday you're dropping F-bombs and now it's about the raccoon? Oh, come on.
and none of these people have ever seen the original Blade movie. They don't know.
It's true.
No. Oh, wow. So I guess maybe go a little bit more into that, the comparisons between Infinity, I guess, Infinity Gauntlet had a lot of scenes in the actual comic that were replicated in Infinity War, but weren't necessarily the same characters. The beginning, instead of Hulk crashing into the Sanctum Sanctorum, it's the Silver Surfer. I can't think of any. I know there's others, but really enjoyed how they tied in some of that. But again, man, I get it. The movies have to be different. But they sure do change a lot. And I don't know. I don't know what to think of this. And the whole thing, like, Thanos is so different in the comics than he is. And he really is so much different than he is. Like, his whole motivation and everything, that was a big thing that they changed. But again, I like Infinity War and Endgame, the movies too, or the movies. But I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there to see what you guys are going to talk about.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to see like a direct adaptation of probably most anything. Like, the fanboy in me wants to see a direct adaptation, but then to watch something and know every single thing that's going to happen and how it's going to happen, that's not going to be as enjoyable. So I liked the throwbacks and the callbacks to this series. Like you said, instead of Silver Surfer, it was Hulk. How Thanos like turned Mantis and Drax into ribbons and blocks. That was really cool. How in Endgame it is Captain America standing up to him at the end when everyone is defeated, and he says, "I'm going to do this all day." But basically, I mean, that was taken from Captain America 1, but he was basically reenacting John's favorite scene, from Infinity Gauntlet. So I kind of like the throwbacks. I mean, it would have definitely been really cool to see some of the different characters, like to see Silver Surfer and Cyclops and those guys in the movies. We're just not there yet, unfortunately, and they're adapting like everything before we get the Fantastic Four and the X-Men. No Mephisto, he wasn't there. He's still in the Disney Plus series, hiding, waiting. He's been in all of them. You just haven't seen him yet. And then, but I think probably the biggest part that I didn't really care for in the adaptation is what you touched on, Darrin, is Thanos' motivation. It wasn't to please Death or to woo her, if you will, to not use modern verbiage for Kevin. I don't think anybody modern uses woo, but he wasn't able to woo Death. It was just that he was able to instead, people could empathize with him. They're like, oh, maybe he does have a point. Whereas in Infinity Gauntlet, no one said, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. We should kill half the universe because you are trying to get a girl. Then, nobody sympathized maybe is the right word with him. So I think kind of take it and leave it. I'm also with John. They will never be stones. They will always be gems to me. They are not stones. That's stupid.
Yeah, who likes rocks?
So, in terms of the differences between comics and the movie, you, I find it funny how, you know, the snap in the comics is such a small, insignificant moment, and the movies turned it into the moment, and that was really interesting. Whereas almost him, him raging out with the Infinity Gauntlet on and it causing this ripple through the universe, that was almost a bigger deal. That more time was spent on that, where it knocked the Earth, off of its orbit around the sun and things like that. Like that was a bigger deal than just the snap. It was kind of, whatever, not a big scene. Um, I I liked how the gauntlet doesn't immediately burn out, because it's infinity. So why would it burn out? Why, unless you're trying to do something infinite, why would the gems, burn out and get destroyed? And I understand from a storytelling perspective why they had to do what they did in the movies, but there are certain things that just, never really 100% set right with me. Um, so yeah, I mean the movie's great. It's its own thing. You kind of got to take it as that. Um, there are certain things. I guess for me, the movies have a different foundation that they're going off of, and whereas the comics, you know, part of the foundation of the movie is definitely the comics. Like that's where they kind of wanted to get to, but you have 10 years of movies that are building up to this versus in the comics you have, at this point in time, would have been 30 years, almost a little under 30 years, maybe about 25 years of continuity that they've been building. And so even all these characters don't, like Thanos and Adam Warlock doesn't really have that much continuity. They're built out of that continuity. So you have to do something different in the movies. So it kind of just is what it is. I understand why things are different. I would never expect it to be the same. I'm kind of like Jared, where, yeah, it'd be great if it was exactly 100% accurate, but at the same time, I would probably also be bored. And then everybody else in the theater would be wondering, who are these people? Who are all these celestial beings? Like they don't understand the background of all that. That none of that would make sense to them. So yeah, I get it. It's fine.
Yeah, I'll say I really enjoyed both the movies and the comic immensely. There are some things I wish could have been in the movies that weren't, and some things I think maybe the movie did a little bit better. Uh, I'd say like the motivation is the biggest one. I liked the Lady Death. That made sense to me, that he was in love with someone and he was doing it for love. That's the biggest motivator in anything. And it could have been in this, but to make him obsessed with balance and having to kill people out didn't ring as true to me. And it made him more kind of like what Adam Warlock was almost when he took the gauntlet, because the reason that they had to get the gauntlet away from Thanos is because it upset the balance of the universe. And now he's saying he is the balance of the universe by having the gauntlet. Obviously, anybody having all that power and not being a good person is going to need to be stopped. So that's okay. I kind of liked, Kevin, when they did that he snapped twice, and the second snap was to destroy the gauntlet. That's what they said in Endgame. He used the gauntlet to
Oh,
destroy the gauntlet. So
okay.
that's why the stones were no more, even though the gems continued to exist for years in Marvel 616 continuity. Uh, but for a comic book universe, the gems existing always is great. For a movie universe, you don't want to see the same movies redoing the same thing over and over and over again. So that makes sense to me too. Um, both were very fun, very good. I think it was a little more human and realistic based, as unrealistic as the movies are, rather than just right. fighting a pantheon of gods and the mind warping powers that they talk about. And the soul gem was never used in the movie, really. I guess you could have maybe had Adam Warlock play the Red Skull's role, right? A little bit. Maybe that would have been a fair trade-off if he appeared like that as the arbiter to the soul realm, and he lives there and he had been there the whole time. But again, I'm not, like I said before, I'm not the biggest fan of Adam Warlock. I didn't need him to be in there. The Red Skull was a cool callback to earlier movies. The collecting of the stones by the as precursors in all the other movies was cool to follow along with for the years leading up to this. That's something that was very exciting. And then this was a great payoff. The movies were a great payoff. So whereas the comic just kind of came, or to me, hit me out of nowhere. I know there was stuff going on in Silver Surfer comics, and they had the Thanos quest beforehand, but it wasn't the only thing going on in Marvel Comics the way the stones were the only thing going on in the movies for several years before we finally got to see this and got to see a great payoff. So yeah, I was happy with both. That's it.
That would have made much better movies. I will say that.
The Thanos quest.
Yeah, those two issues are really, really good. Those are a lot of fun to read. But
yes.
Well, there's still time for a Disney Plus series.
So, in terms of the differences between comics and the movie, I find it funny how, the snap in the comics is such a small, insignificant moment, and the movies turned it into the moment, and that was really interesting. Whereas almost him raging out with the Infinity Gauntlet on and it causing this ripple through the universe, that was almost a bigger deal. That more time was spent on that, where it knocked the Earth, off of its orbit around the sun and things like that. Like that was a bigger deal than just the snap. It was kind of whatever, not a big scene. I liked how the gauntlet doesn't immediately burn out, because it's infinity. So why would it burn out? Why, unless you're trying to do something infinite, why would the gems, burn out and get destroyed? And I understand from a storytelling perspective why they had to do what they did in the movies, but there are certain things that just, never really 100% set right with me. So yeah, the movie's great. It's its own thing. You kind of got to take it as that. There are certain things. I guess for me, the movies have a different foundation that they're going off of, and whereas the comics, it's part of the foundation of the movie is definitely the comics. Like that's where they kind of wanted to get to, but you have 10 years of movies that are building up to this versus in the comics you have, at this point in time, would have been 30 years, almost a little under 30 years, maybe about 25 years of continuity that they've been building. And so even all these characters don't, like Thanos and Adam Warlock doesn't really have that much continuity. They're built out of that continuity. So you have to do something different in the movies. So it kind of just is what it is. I understand why things are different. I would never expect it to be the same. I'm kind of like Jared, where, yeah, it'd be great if it was exactly 100% accurate, but at the same time, I would probably also be bored. And then everybody else in the theater would be wondering, who are these people? Who are all these celestial beings? Like they don't understand the background of all that. None of that would make sense to them. So yeah, I get it. It's fine.
Yeah, I'll say I really enjoyed both the movies and the comic immensely. There are some things I wish could have been in the movies that weren't, and some things I think maybe the movie did a little bit better. I'd say the the motivation is the biggest one. I liked the Lady Death. That made sense to me, that he was in love with someone and he was doing it for love. That's the biggest motivator in anything. And it could have been in this, but to make him obsessed with balance and having to kill people out didn't ring as true to me. And it made him more kind of like what Adam Warlock was almost when he took the gauntlet, because the reason that they had to get the gauntlet away from Thanos is because it upset the balance of the universe. And now he's saying he is the balance of the universe by having the gauntlet. Obviously, anybody having all that power and not being a good person is going to need to be stopped. So that's okay. I kind of liked, Kevin, when they did that he snapped twice, and the second snap was to destroy the gauntlet. That's what they said in Endgame. He used the gauntlet to destroy the gauntlet. So that's why that's why the stones were no more, even though the gems continued to exist for years in Marvel 616 continuity. But for a comic book universe, the gems existing always is great. For a movie universe, you don't want to see the same movies redoing the same thing over and over and over again. So that makes sense to me too. Both were very fun, very good. I think it was a little more human and realistic based, as unrealistic as the movies are, rather than just fighting a pantheon of gods and the mind warping powers that they talk about. And the soul gem was never used in the movie, really. I guess you could have maybe had Adam Warlock play the Red Skull's role, right? A little bit. Maybe that would have been a fair trade-off if he appeared like that as the arbiter to the soul realm, and he lives there and he had been there the whole time. But again, I'm not, like I said before, I'm not the biggest fan of Adam Warlock. I didn't need him to be in there. The Red Skull was a cool callback to earlier movies. The collecting of the stones as precursors in all the other movies was cool to follow along with for the years leading up to this. That's something that was very exciting. And then this was a great payoff. The movies were a great payoff. So whereas the comic just kind of came, or to me, hit me out of nowhere. I know there was stuff going on in Silver Surfer comics, and they had the Thanos quest beforehand, but it wasn't the only thing going on in Marvel Comics the way the stones were the only thing going on in the movies for several years before we finally got to see this and got to see a great payoff. So yeah, I was happy with both. That's it.
That would have made much better movies. I will say that.
Quest?
Yeah, those two issues are really, really good. Those are a lot of fun to read. But
yes.
Well, there's still time for a Disney Plus series.
All righty, and with that, off to some Marvel trivia.
All right, we got some Marvel trivia all about the Infinity Gauntlet. Right here. Each question is going to be 1 point. We don't have a ton of questions because the series was just so good. There aren't a lot of trivial things in it. So we're going to be talking more so about the Infinity Gauntlet as an item for some of our trivia. And then we're going to be talking about some deaths from Infinity Gauntlet. So whoever I see raise their hand first, or their item, or whatever to get my attention, you can answer, and you can win a no prize. All right. The events of Infinity Gauntlet number 6 lead directly into this series. John.
Adam Warlock and the Infinity Watch.
Yes. There's no Adam, but I'll give it to you.
All right.
All right. In what comic did the Infinity Gauntlet first appear? This is a hard one. Yeah, I know. It's Silver Surfer. Go ahead, John.
I would say Silver Surfer 50.
44. Very close. Very
close, but no cigar.
Nope.
How many stones or gems and gloves are there in the Ultimate Universe? John's eyes. You should watch those. Darrin.
No, I was just going like this and feet.
Oh. All right. No guesses? Kevin.
Okay. 6 gems, 1 gauntlet. I don't know.
That's weird. We must not have enjoyed the Ultimate Universe. I didn't. Eight gems and 2 gloves. The Hulk wore them. Yeah.
Were there 4 on each glove? I want to know about this now. You know more about this? Or,
Yep.
sorry to interrupt trivia. Were there?
Yeah.
Is this
so
is this
there
the
were 4
ultimatum
gems
that
on each-
nobody read? Or-
There
And
were
then-
4.
And then what were the other 2? Were the main 6 plus 2, or you don't know?
I don't know that much.
All right.
Ultimate Universe was really rough for me. I stayed on like the first 30 issues of Ultimate X-Men and like probably the first 60 issues of Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Other than
Started
that,
okay. The Ultimate stuff. The Ultimate Spider-Man, I think I read probably 100 issues of when it was Bendis and Bagley. But the universe as a whole kind of jumped the shark 25 issues in or so.
yeah.
All right.
Okay. And this is these are all 616 questions. None of these are MCU questions, so you know. Who was the first human to wear the gauntlet? This would be under Mr. Jonathan Hickman. That helps at all. John.
Captain America.
Nope. Nope. It was Iron Man in Avengers number 12. The Hood was trying to get all the gems, and Iron Man, along with the Illuminati, because this is before Captain America got into the Illuminati. He had to set him straight.
All right, so far the scores are John 1, everybody else 0.
This is the
Nope.
toughest trivia ever.
It's only been 4 questions. It's been 4 questions. All right. This character got a hold of the Infinity Gauntlet during Marvel Holiday Spectacular 2009.
Oh, come on, man.
John.
Santa Claus.
Santa Claus.
Oh.
Okay. Good context clues there. Yeah. All right.
Yes.
And I
That's why
still didn't
asked
get
that.
what I wanted that year. Go ahead.
That's why I asked that question. All right. During the JLA Avengers crossover comic books, this DC character wielded the Infinity Gauntlet. John.
Dark Side.
Darkseid. And he could not get it to work. All right. The Infinity Gauntlet is part of a trilogy. Name the other 2 parts in order. Kevin.
It is Infinity War and Infinity Crusade.
Very good. Yep. How many other Marvel series had Infinity Gauntlet tie-ins? Kevin.
Trying to remember if it was 2 or 3.
Well, they're both wrong. So
Oh, then 4. 4. All right. Yeah.
Wait, hold on.
all right, Darrin, did you have a guess?
Yes, I do. 4.
No.
Ah.
John.
I'll say 5.
6.
Just as many as there are gems. All right.
So what are I know Doctor Strange and Silver Surfer. Who else?
Of course, I did not write that down, but I know Cloak and Dagger. Cloak and Dagger. I think Sleepwalker.
Oh, that's okay.
Silver Surfer. Doctor
Sleepwalker.
Strange.
Okay.
Gosh,
So only 2 that count. Okay. All right. So
It's
I'm
true.
right. Okay.
It's true, man. That Sleepwalker issue, though. Wow, that was a good one.
Wow.
All right, now this one goes along with the last question. How many other Marvel issues had Infinity Gauntlet tie-ins? You know it's going to be at least 6. Darrin.
18.
Oh, you're close.
Oh, wait, come on, you're helping them.
John.
17.
No. Kevin.
20.
19. All right, now we're going to go with how characters died, okay? I'm going to give you the scenario, and you have to tell me which character it was. Cool? All right. Let's see. turned into a pile of cubes? Kevin.
Thor.
Nova.
I knew that.
Yeah. Oh,
Wasn't Thor
Go
turned
ahead.
into a pile of cubes also?
We'll get to him. We'll get to him. All right. Who was crushed to death by a backhanded slap? John.
I think that was Thor. Went after. Okay. Never mind. I'm not going to give it away after what, but
All right.
I think he kind of was. All right. Go ahead.
These are how I interpreted the event, and those will be the correct answers. The answer was Fire Lord. Fire Lord
yeah.
was pimp slapped and never to be heard from again. All right, go for an easier one. So he had his head encased in a box. John.
Cyclops.
Cyclops. There we go. Combusted after trying to swallow Thanos in his magical wrap. John.
Cloak.
What? Sucked into a time portal and dumped in front of a Tyrannosaurus Rex. John?
Drax.
Drax?
Yeah.
Oh, he's cleaning up, guys.
Oh, I forgot to keep track. All right.
He actually paid attention when he was reading. Good job. It's like high school all over again. I didn't really read.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just watched the movie.
I got the cliff notes.
All right, decapitated by Tyraxia. Darrin.
Iron Man.
Iron Man.
On the board.
Back.
All right. Body was turned into plant-like stone after being touched. There were two of these.
Wait, do we have to name two or just one?
You can name one, and then the other person can try and name the other one. All right, give you one. One of them was Namor.
Wait.
John?
She-Hulk.
She-Hulk.
I remember that. Yeah.
Hands were incinerated and then cooked. John?
Quasar.
Quasar.
Well, I got to say this. I really enjoyed that Quasar costume when George Perez drew it. That's my favorite. I don't know. I just always liked the mask that's only covering like a domino, but then it comes up from the neck too, kind of thing. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. It's a weird mask opinion that I have, but that's my opinion on masks. Let the hair flow if you have it. If you got it, let it flow. What are you doing? Covered up that beautiful hair. Some people, they don't get to have hair. Go ahead.
That was John's TED Talk. That was good. All right. Bones were transformed to rubber. Kevin.
Wolverine.
Wolverine. All right. Hole punch through the chest and then Kevin.
Vision.
Vision. Changed into a glass statue. John.
Thor.
Thor.
And then backhanded and shattered.
All right. Beaten to death by multiple shots to the face with a rock. Kevin.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. What a terrible way to go. And last but not least, defeated in hand-to-hand combat. Darrin.
Captain America.
Captain America. And that was your Infinity Gauntlet trivia. I hesitate to say that John won.
Yeah, John won.
Yeah. I stopped keeping score. I don't even know what mine was.
Yeah.
He won.
Right. Thank you.
That was
Thank you.
fun. That was
That
fun.
was a good one. That was
we got
tough. I
some
was not expecting.
Infinity Gauntlet, if it was in the X-Men animated series. Shirt.
I like it.
Go ahead, John.
selling-
Show yours.
I'm just
Yeah.
M6P man.
I got another one too. He wasn't in this, but it's cool. Got the
Nightcrawler.
yeah, Nightcrawler. Yeah.
My shirt just says Dunder Mifflin underneath here somehow.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can come up with a Marvel something with that. The Office with Marvel characters. I'd watch that show. Absolutely.
That'd be a good one.
So in the meantime, thanks for checking us out and watching our Back to Book show. Looking at the Infinity Gauntlet, we are the M6P. You can check us out at the m6p.com And on all the socials, Instagram, YouTube, you name it, we're there. Just do a search for the M6P. And like us, subscribe, all the things that the cool kids are doing. Check us out on TeePublic as well. And until next time, make yours the M6P.